This debate today, it's about who gets to be an American. What opinions do we have to be counted as Americans? This is what this debate is about, Madam Speaker. There is this idea that you are a suspect if you are an immigrant, or if you are from certain parts of the world, or a certain skin tone, or a Muslim. It is no accident that members of the Republican Party accused the first Black president, Barack Obama, of being a secret Muslim. It is no accident that former President Donald Trump led a birther movement that falsely claimed he was born in Kenya. Because to them, falsely labeling the first and only President of the United States of America a Muslim and African immigrant somehow made him less American.
Censuring Representative Ilhan Omar of Minnesota. Whereas elected members of Congress take an oath to bear true faith and allegiance to the United States without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion. Whereas Representative Ilhan Omar took an oath of allegiance to the United States upon becoming a citizen, declaring, "I absolutely and entirely renounce and abjure all allegiance and fidelity to any foreign prince, potentate, state, or sovereignty, of whom or which I have heretofore been a subject or citizen." Whereas on January 27, 2024, Representative Omar gave remarks at an event in Minneapolis in which she made treasonous statements. Whereas Representative Omar said she has spoken to many Somalians who asked her to intercede for the Somali government by pressuring the United States government into certain actions. Whereas Representative Omar assured the Somalians she spoke to, the U.S. government will only do what Somalians in the U.S. tell them to do. They will do what we want and nothing else.
Welcome back, Patriots. Before we dive into this deep and thought-provoking topic, do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and make sure you ring that bell so you don't miss any of the important content we bring you. This video is going to be a real eye-opener, and you definitely don't want to miss it. Today, we're going to talk about something that cuts right to the heart of what it means to serve this country as a member of Congress. It involves the controversy surrounding Representative Ilhan Omar, a member of the House who has been in the headlines for all the wrong reasons. But this isn't just some random scandal or political drama we're talking about today. This is much more serious. What we're dealing with here is a direct challenge to the very principles that this country was founded on. Now, many of you have heard about Ilhan Omar and some of the controversies she's been involved in. But this latest issue, brought to light by a representative from Georgia, takes things to an entirely new level. Omar, who swore an oath to support and defend the Constitution, has seemingly been using her position in Congress to serve the interests of a foreign country, Somalia. This is a violation of her oath, and it cannot be ignored. So let's break this down.
Well, I am Muslim. I am an immigrant, and interestingly, from Africa. Is anyone surprised that I am being targeted? Is anyone surprised that I am somehow deemed unworthy to speak about American foreign policy, or that they see me as a powerful voice that needs to be silenced? Frankly, it is expected, because when you push power, power pushes back. Representation matters. Continuing to expand our ideas of who is American and who can partake in the American experiment is a good thing. I am an American who was sent here, by her constituents to represent them in Congress, a refugee who survived the horrors of a civil war, someone who spent her childhood in a refugee camp, someone who knows what it means to have a shot at a better life here in the United States, and someone who believes in the American dream and the American possibility and the promise and the ability to participate in the democratic process.
They must follow our orders, and that is how we will safeguard the interest of Somalia. Whereas Representative Omar continued, for as long as I am in U.S. Congress, Somalia will never be in danger. Its waters will not be stolen by Ethiopia or others. Sleep in comfort knowing I am here to protect the interest of Somalia from inside the U.S. system. Whereas George Washington warned in his farewell address of 1796 to guard against the impostures of pretended patriotism, and further declared citizens by birth or choice of a common country, that country has a right to concentrate your affections. The name of American, which belongs to you in your national capacity, must always exalt the just pride of patriotism more than any appellation derived from local discriminations. Whereas these statements by Representative Omar clearly violate the oath she took as an elected member of Congress to defend and protect the United States Constitution. Whereas Representative Omar has exhibited the treasonous tendencies George Washington warned about, and her actions must be condemned by all members of Congress who adhere to the oath they took upon assuming office. And whereas by openly admitting her efforts to advance Somalia's interest using her position as a United States representative, Representative Omar has revealed herself to be a foreign agent acting on behalf of a foreign government. Now, therefore be it resolved that Representative Ilhan Omar of Minnesota be censured. Representative Ilhan Omar forthwith present herself in the well of the House of Representatives for the pronouncement of censure. Representative Ilhan Omar be censured with the public reading of this resolution by the Speaker, and Representative Ilhan Omar be and is hereby removed from the Committee of the Budget and the Committee on Education and the Workforce.
When you examine the actions of Ilhan Omar, it's not just about one member of Congress speaking out of turn. It goes beyond party lines and the usual political squabbles we've come to expect. This issue strikes at the heart of what it means to be a representative of the people in the U.S. Congress. To understand why her actions are so problematic, we have to look at the historical significance of the oath of office and the expectations of loyalty that come with it. The oath of office taken by every member of Congress, as prescribed by Article V of the U.S. Constitution, requires them to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. But it doesn't stop there. They also swear to bear true faith and allegiance to the same. This is a solemn promise to uphold the laws of the land and protect the interests of the American people above all else. The oath is not negotiable and sacred. This is not just a formality, it's a cornerstone of the democratic system we have in place. Historically, loyalty to the U.S. has been a central tenet of what it means to serve as an elected official. It dates back to the days of George Washington, who cautioned the American people in his 1796 farewell address to be vigilant against the impostures of pretended patriotism. Washington warned that loyalty should be to the nation above all else, and that any divided allegiance could threaten the integrity of the country. His words were designed to protect America from being undermined by foreign influence, something that could compromise the national interest and security. To illustrate the importance of this, let's look at how divided loyalty has played out in American history. During the Cold War, the U.S. government was vigilant about potential communist influence, and loyalty oaths were a routine part of the political landscape. Members of Congress were held to rigorous standards to ensure their loyalty to the United States, particularly during times of international tension. Fast forward to the modern era, and while the world has changed, the need for loyalty to one's country remains just as critical. Omar's actions raise the very questions Washington warned about. When does loyalty to your home country or your heritage compromise loyalty to the nation you've sworn to serve? This is what we must grapple with today. Should a person be allowed to serve in Congress when their actions and words suggest their loyalty is to a foreign country rather than the United States? Ilhan Omar's rise to power is a remarkable story. She came to the United States as a refugee from Somalia, and her journey through American politics is a testament to the opportunities this country provides. Her background, being both a product of her Somali heritage and an American citizen, plays a significant role in shaping her political views. Omar has made it clear that her roots and the struggles of her people are central to her political identity. But should this influence her actions as a representative of the United States? In 2018, Omar was elected as the first Somali American to serve in the U.S. Congress, representing Minnesota's 5th Congressional District. She quickly became one of the most vocal and controversial members of Congress. But her remarks and actions have raised serious concerns about her allegiance. Omar's comments about Somalia and her promises to act on behalf of Somali Americans suggest that her loyalty might not be entirely to the United States. While some might argue that her position as a representative of a minority community might explain her advocacy for Somalia, her statements go beyond what one would expect from someone who took an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. In fact, Omar's words and actions have drawn criticism from both sides of the aisle, even though her critics are often reluctant to confront the issue directly. Her most recent remarks about Somali Americans pushing the U.S. government to act on behalf of Somalia point to a troubling pattern of behavior. She has used her platform to emphasize the need for the EWS government to prioritize the interests of Somali Americans, but this is more than just advocating for her constituents. It's about advancing the interests of a foreign nation. This is the heart of the issue. Many have pointed out that she doesn't just advocate for Somali Americans' needs within the U.S. She seems to be positioning herself as someone who will protect the interests of Somalia, even if it means working against the U.S. government's policies. This raises serious ethical concerns about whether she is putting her oath to America above her heritage and commitments abroad. On January 27, 2024, Omar spoke at an event in Minneapolis, and it was here that her controversial remarks made headlines. In this speech, she mentioned that Somali Americans had spoken to her about pressuring the U.S. government to adopt policies favorable to Somalia. She declared that as long as she was in Congress, Somalia's interests would always be protected. Here's what makes this so alarming. As a representative of the people of the United States, her job is to represent the best interests of America, not any other nation. She claimed that Somali Americans would use their influence to manipulate U.S. policy, saying, "They will do what we want and nothing else." This was a blatant display of how Omar was positioning herself to use her political power to further a foreign agenda. When a member of Congress openly states that they are willing to use their office to protect the interests of another country, it raises immediate red flags. Is it possible that Omar is simply trying to act as a voice for her community? Or is she overstepping her bounds and violating the principles of the U.S. Constitution? Moreover, her comments about Somalia's waters being stolen by Ethiopia or others further suggest that she is ready to advocate for Somalia's territorial interests, which could conflict with UBUP's foreign policy. We have to ask ourselves, how can we trust an elected official who seems more focused on the interests of a foreign country than on defending the U.S. Constitution? George Washington's farewell address is one of the most important documents in American history. In it, he urged Americans to avoid foreign alliances that could drag the country into unnecessary conflicts. He also warned about the dangers of partisanship and divided loyalties. Washington's words continue to resonate today because they were designed to protect the United States from the very kind of behavior that Ilhan Omar's actions suggest. Washington understood that a divided loyalty could weaken the fabric of the nation. He was deeply concerned about the possibility of factions within the U.S. government being more loyal to foreign powers than to the interests of the United States. Washington's address is a warning about what happens when patriotism becomes selective and when allegiances to foreign governments take precedence over loyalty to the American people. Omar's actions may not be a direct attempt to undermine the U.S. government, but they certainly raise questions about her commitment to putting the U.S. first. Washington's address challenges us to consider what happens when public servants forget the solemn duty they have to the nation. It's clear that Washington would not have tolerated actions like those of Representative Omar. Her actions seem to fit the description of the impostures of pretended patriotism that Washington warned about. Foreign influence has always been a concern in American politics. From the early days of the Republic to the modern age, there have been multiple instances of foreign governments attempting to sway U.S. policies to serve their own interests. While lobbying and diplomacy are common practices, when foreign influence crosses the line into manipulation, it becomes a serious threat to U.S. sovereignty. Throughout history, there have been several high-profile cases of foreign influence in American politics. One of the most well-known cases was during the Cold War, when the Soviet Union attempted to infiltrate American political circles. The U.S. responded with strict measures to ensure that foreign powers couldn't control American decision-making. In modern times, the situation hasn't changed. Foreign governments continue to lobby American officials, but now we also have instances of foreign agents attempting to sway U.S. elections and policy. Ilhan Omar's situation is troubling because it shows a potential for foreign interests to infiltrate the U.S. government from within. If a member of Congress is openly willing to act in the interest of a foreign country, it sets a dangerous precedent. The question we must ask is whether the U.S. government is doing enough to protect itself from foreign influence, especially when that influence comes from elected officials like Omar, who might be using their platform to further a foreign agenda. We've now established a deeper understanding of the serious implications surrounding Representative Ilhan Omar's actions. To continue, let's take a closer look at how her controversial statements and behavior as a member of Congress pose a grave challenge to the concept of loyalty to the United States. Her willingness to advance the interests of a foreign country over the United States is not a simple mistake, it's a breach of trust, a violation of the sacred oath that all members of Congress swear when taking office. Omar's background and her rise to power are part of a much larger narrative about the intersection of politics, loyalty, and personal identity. She's a refugee who fled war-torn Somalia and sought asylum in the United States. Her immigrant story is one of the American dream, the story of someone who came to this country seeking opportunity and a better life. This is the very essence of what makes America great, the ability to welcome people from all over the world and offer them a chance to build a new life. But when someone like Omar rises to power, should we expect her to advocate for the country that gave her everything, or should we be prepared for her to advocate for the interests of the country she left behind? That question becomes particularly crucial when you examine her public remarks. Omar has continually inserted her Somali heritage into her political identity, and while this is understandable on a personal level, it becomes problematic when she appears to place the interests of Somalia above the interests of the United States. To say that she would safeguard Somalia's interests from within the U.S. system, as she did in her January 2024 speech, is not just a statement of concern for her homeland, it's a direct challenge to her loyalty to the United States. It's worth noting that the U.S. Constitution explicitly demands that members of Congress give up any foreign allegiance when they take their oath of office. This is a clear directive that underscores the need for loyalty to America alone. Yet, what we have in Omar's case is a situation where her allegiance appears divided, where her role as a U.S. representative is not just about advocating for her district in Minnesota, but also about promoting a foreign agenda. This is not something that can be overlooked, as it strikes at the heart of the legitimacy of her role in the U.S. government. When she spoke about Somali Americans influencing U.S. foreign policy, her statement wasn't just a rhetorical flourish. It was a declaration that Somali Americans should have the power to shape U.S. policy in a way that benefits Somalia. This type of influence, when exercised by a member of Congress, is dangerous. It undermines the very foundation of U.S. sovereignty, and worse yet, it can create a pathway for foreign interests to infiltrate American politics. There is a distinct difference between advocating for policies that benefit your community and using your position to push for the interests of a foreign nation. Omar's comments about Somalia's territorial integrity being at risk and her promise to safeguard its waters from Ethiopia or other countries further demonstrate her commitment to foreign interests. This is not merely about her Somali American constituents. This is about a broader geopolitical issue that aligns her with a foreign country's interests over America's. It is one thing to represent your people's needs. It is another to take active steps to influence U.S. policy in favor of a foreign nation's geopolitical ambitions. The danger in this type of political behavior cannot be overstated. It opens the door to the manipulation of U.S. policy by foreign actors, something that could have disastrous consequences for national security. If members of Congress are allowed to act as agents for foreign governments, they can undermine the sovereignty of the United States and risk aligning our nation's policies with countries whose interests may be at odds with ours. This is not just a question of political allegiance, it's about protecting the interests of the American people. Omar's statements are not just a minor infraction, they are a glaring violation of the sacred duty that every member of Congress has to uphold the interests of the United States. When she made the claim that she would protect Somalia's interests from within the UW system, she was signaling to the American people that her loyalty was not to them, but to a foreign country. She was positioning herself as a representative of Somalia in Congress, which is a direct contradiction to her role as an elected official serving the U.S. The implications of this go far beyond Omar as an individual. This is about the integrity of the U.S. Congress as a whole. If one member can openly pledge loyalty to a foreign government while holding office in Congress, what does that say about the institution? The oath of office is supposed to be a non-negotiable commitment to the U.S. Constitution. It's supposed to be an oath that binds all members of Congress to the same standard of loyalty to America. Yet, what Omar's actions suggest is that loyalty to the United States can be optional if it conflicts with personal, ethnic, or foreign ties. For those who might argue that Omar's actions are simply a reflection of her strong ties to her Somali roots, it's important to remember that her position as a U.S. Congresswoman is not just about her identity. It's about representing the interests of the American people. And those interests, at the end of the day, must come before the interests of any other nation. This is where the ethical question becomes even more profound. Should someone with dual loyalties be allowed to represent the interests of the United States? Should they be trusted to make decisions that impact the future of the country when their allegiances may not be entirely with America? These are the questions we need to ask ourselves as a nation. It's not about ethnicity, it's not about race, it's about loyalty and allegiance to the United States, which is the core requirement for any elected official. Washington's farewell address emphasized that Americans should be vigilant against foreign influence. This is a sentiment that was just as relevant in 1796 as it is today. In an era where the world is increasingly interconnected, the potential for foreign influence to seep into our political system is greater than ever before. Whether it's through lobbying, foreign donations, or direct political influence, the risks are real. And when a member of Congress sworn to protect the Constitution appears to be putting the interests of a foreign country above those of the United States, it should raise serious concerns. But it's not just about the past, it's about the future. What happens if this behavior goes unchecked? What happens if other members of Congress start to follow Omar's example? It's a slippery slope, and one that could ultimately undermine the very foundation of American democracy. If loyalty to the United States becomes optional, if elected officials can use their positions to further the agendas of foreign governments, then we risk losing the integrity of our political system. This is why it is imperative that Ilhan Omar be held accountable for her actions. The resolution introduced to censure her is a step in the right direction. It sends a message that loyalty to the United States is non-negotiable, and that no member of Congress is above the oath they took when they entered office. If we allow her actions to go unpunished, we set a dangerous precedent that could reverberate throughout the halls of Congress for generations to come. Furthermore, The censure of Omar is not just about one individual, it's about ensuring the integrity of the U.S. government. The American people deserve representatives who are committed to the best interests of the United States, not to foreign governments or foreign agendas. We need to demand that every member of Congress place their loyalty to the U.S. above all else, and that they make decisions that benefit America, not any other country. In the end, this issue goes beyond politics. It's about protecting the values that make the United States strong. It's about ensuring that our elected officials represent U.S. and not foreign interests, not personal agendas. The foundation of our democracy is built on trust, and if that trust is broken, it threatens the very fabric of our nation. If you agree that Ilhan Omar's actions are a direct threat to the integrity of our government, it's time to speak out. Contact your representatives, make your voice heard, and let them know that we will not tolerate foreign influence in our political system. The integrity of our country depends on it. I'll leave you with this. The loyalty of every elected official must always be to the United States. Anything less is a betrayal of the trust the American people have placed in them. Let's stand united in defending our sovereignty, our Constitution, and our way of life. The future of America depends on it. If you haven't already, please like, subscribe, and ring the bell for more discussions on topics that matter. Stay informed, stay vigilant, and keep fighting the good fight. God bless America.